Welcome to the REI Diamonds Show with Dan Breslin, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom.
Welcome to the REI Diamond Show with Austin Stack on generating over $1 million in 14 months in Atlanta, Georgia. I am Dan Breslin, host of the REI Diamond Show, and today I am here again with close friend and member of my team, Austin Stack. Austin and I have been absolutely killing it in the Atlanta market over the last 14 months. We have been blessed to hit the ground running and do so many good deals in such a short period of time. One of the biggest leverage points for us has been the top-notch people we've been lucky enough to connect with since opening Atlanta. A big shout-out and thank you to all those on our team in Atlanta. Without those solid people on the team, none of this is even remotely possible. Austin and I cover this and a few other keys to our record-breaking year in the Atlanta market, and we also talk about some of the deals that we are currently looking to buy in the market, so real estate agents, wholesalers, anybody who has a referral for a deal in the Atlanta market or even some of my other markets, listen up closely, take notes. We're going to talk about exactly the kind of deals we're looking at and even some that we're willing to pay almost retail or even retail prices on. Let's get rocking and rolling, shall we? All right, welcome to the show, Austin Stack, or I should say welcome back. How are you doing today?
Yeah, happy to be back, man. It's good being back. Night and day difference last time till now, but it's great, man. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and it's pretty cool. You did kind of mention and allude to being on the show before, and I did as well. If anybody is interested and has not already heard Austin's original podcast, Visit Here with us. It is Austin Stack on being drafted onto the Diamond Equity team, and he talks about how he got started and then had taken control of the Atlanta market, and we're going to get into some of the transformation that took place as well. So, Austin, you're in Atlanta. What's the weather like? What's going on in Atlanta here as we record this?
Dude, it is sunny and beautiful. I think it's like 75 out. I am always wearing pants. If I was a shorts guy, I'd be wearing shorts. But after this, I'm going to go sit out by the pool, actually, at my complex and tan. So it's great here, man. I love Atlanta's weather. You know, there's no snow. I don't think that comes here, really.
Oh, yeah, and you guys survived the hurricane, no damage and anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so they made a real big deal about it here in Atlanta, but it didn't really do anything. You know, all the water was out of the grocery stores, a lot of the food. There was gas stations that were closed down. There were a few areas that lost power, but I was really kind of hoping for something a little more crazier, as bad as that sounds, just to experience it. But I've been through worse monsoons in Arizona. So it was negligible. It was a joke.
Nice. Yeah, I'm here in Chicago, as our listeners already figured out, staring out the lake, beautiful sunny day. All the boats and sailboats are cruising by the balcony here, and I'm itching to just go out to the lake as soon as we're done wrapped up with this myself. So maybe I will catch it, Dan.
Yeah, your spot's awesome, man. You have a great spot over there.
Absolutely.
Right on the water. Freaking, isn't it Florida ceiling windows that you're looking out over the water?
Yeah, I have floor to ceiling windows, and a lot of the listeners probably heard me warn about construction. It's been going on for almost a year here on these windows. So they've been replacing the building as a 1960s era building. So they're taking the 1960s windows out. And just this week, we got, the brand new sliding glass door windows out here overlooking the lake. So the view has never been better. And in another 3 or 4 weeks, we'll have railings on the balcony, completely brand new renovated balconies at the cost of $40,000 per unit. And we'll be able to hang out there finally after a year of restrictions.
Dude, I'm coming over.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait. First class, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's all we fly. Chartered next.
Within 12 months.
Cool.
So, Austin, would you mind just, really brief? We don't need the entire, introductory story, but more maybe what happened over the last year or so, just kind of give listeners a little bit of a feel of who you are. And then if they want, they could just check out the previous episode for, the actual backstory behind who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just do the quick brief synopsis of the prior up till now, getting everybody caught up, like you just said. So originally was living in Chicago. That's where I met you. I found out about, wholesaling, and I always wanted to be a real estate investor. And so instead of getting my license, which I passed all my licensing tests in Chicago, you and I spoke, and I decided after a couple of days of meetings to actually drive down and just live in Atlanta. I think I came down here and visited with another company for a couple of days, decided to move down here 4 days later, pack my car up full of everything that I could fit in there. I left my apartment in Chicago. I left all my furniture, everybody else that I had met there, told my mom and my grandma that I was moving, and just kind of came down here and just figured it out. Since then, you and I have partnered. It's been, godsend, just absolutely fantastic. I feel like I've been waiting and preparing for this moment with my personal growth and the trajectory of my life for my entire life. And it's finally here. So I'm so thankful. But we started out just wholesaling, right? Like we sent out the first couple of marketing pieces in July, closed our first deal in I think like mid to late August, and then had some real success last year with wholesaling, and now moving up into this year, we've built up a huge network of people and a really great team that's around us, but more importantly, a ton of capital and a ton of capital partners who we've now transitioned into flipping, and we have just closed on one of our first rental properties over by the Beltline. We're going to be closing on, many, many more. Our ideal goal is to put together a fund of 10 to 15 properties, not a fund, but, a portfolio of 10 to 15 rental properties in gentrifying areas and purchase there, hold on to it for the long term. And then, it's great having fulfilled the dream of what every wholesaler wants to do, which is get out of wholesaling and move into being an actual real estate investor who purchases deals and does the flips, everything. It's crazy how quick it actually happened, but it's the market and, maybe the training that you and I have been going through for the past, combined, I think, 17 years, 18 years of experience between us.
Oh, yeah. I think it's important too, right? Austin, you pointed something out, and I'm going to just kind of reiterate it for the listener's sake. Anyone who might be listening who's not already a rock star making $1 million a year, $500,000 a year in the real estate business, or even for that matter, 6 figures a year, 100, 200 grand, that's like a ton of money. It's not an overnight thing. And I see a lot of newbies get in, or people who've been in around a couple of years, and I hear something like, I actually just spoke at an event here in the Chicago market recently, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm going to wholesale and I'm going to build up my capital and become a private lender. And I'm thinking, man, I can't wait to get to that point. And I've been at it for like 11 years. And I'm doing like quite a few deals here in a lot of different markets around the country. And so there's like a little bit of a delusion when you first get in, as far as like, I think part of it's like when you make $20,000 on a deal the first time in your life, and you're used to making, I don't know, $700 a week, $1,700 a week, $2,000 a week, and you make $20,000 on one, let's say, wholesale assignment, your mind, gets diluted and thinks that 20,000 is $1 million. So it kind of like equates, unrealistically the expectations in your mind a little bit when you first start making big money, that like, oh, this is so easy. I'm pretty much a millionaire. And like, that like Midas touch delusion kind of gets people off track, or certainly creates much larger than life egos in certain people. I know I've dealt with that myself, and it's kind of like a place to be wary of in the beginning, and understand that it's a business, and maybe understand that if you're not used to doing large numbers already in your life as a result of maybe success or a job or whatever the case is, but if this was kind of like it was for me, my way out of poverty was through real estate, the like trajectory of learning how to deal psychologically with larger numbers than I was used to dealing with was something that took me several years to comprehend. Do you remember some of our little learning points along the way, Austin, where maybe you had those transitions that you might share and touch on?
Absolutely, man. Dude, you bring up a really great point that when you don't have $20,000 and then you think if you just had $20,000, like, everything would be so much easier, but there is a lot that comes with that, right? Like entrepreneurship is just the person who just solves more problems than anybody else, and they're just constantly solving problems all day. It's a task. So, when you get that $20,000, or, I know this now, but like, looking at your bank account and seeing, the business account, seeing six figures in there, high six figures in there. It doesn't feel like that much when you get it. You're like, wow, you can do some cool stuff with this, but that's not arrogance or anything or ungratefulness. Because I'm super grateful. I came from, mom on Section 8, just raising her two kids by herself. Like, I understand that, like, absolute. But yeah, I mean, when you do get it, it doesn't seem as grandiose as you thought it would. It's more bliss, more calm. But a couple of the lessons is, I remember just talking with Jake about this today, and Jake's on our team. He's one of the acquisitions people that runs, the properties that we go and see. But we were just talking about this today. As far as getting large sums of money all at one time, and you need to be the right person in order to receive that. Because we got one of our first large deals, we got a $40,000 wire into the business account. And for a wire is like, transfer from the closing attorney to like, the proceeds of the sale to the account. And I remember all the blood rushing to my head or away from it. I don't remember. And feeling like I was going to pass out and going through my mental files and thinking to myself, do I deserve this? Am I doing wrong by somebody? I want to make sure I'm doing right. My mom raised me a certain way, like questioning myself, not because we did anything that was questionable, but simply because it was an astounding amount of money to me. I just wasn't used to it. So, since then I've worked through that through a couple good books, one that Dan recommended. And if you're not the right person, then you can make large amounts of money, six figures, multiple six figures, $1 million a year. But if you're not the type of person who has built themselves up to be deserving of that, then you're not going to hold on to it, because gaining money, resources, capital is one thing, but managing wealth and putting it to smart utilizations and resources, that's a whole different ballpark. And I leverage off of you, Dan, a whole heck of a ton. I call you about, trivial things sometimes just to ask your opinion or what angle you would kind of look at it from, just to help frame my mind, and looking at the information in the correct context. Because we have a lot of content, a lot of knowledge that is circling around, but from your experience and your wisdom with having all the resources and talking to all the people that you have in your time alive, and you're very well established, the frame that you put all that knowledge into, how you, like, what eyes you use to look at it is the most important thing. And I tell my guys, like, call me, the people on Diamond Equity's Atlanta team, like, call me 5 times a day. I would rather you do that, because you're going to learn every time we talk. And I still am on the phone with you, Dan, sometimes 5 times a day. Just, I don't know, some stuff is trivial, but you make it something interesting.
This is cool. We're going in a unique direction here. I had no idea we would, but I want to stay on it. I want a very short, brief answer here. I'm hoping you have the calculation. And how much assignment fees have we closed that have been wired into the account combined in the last 13, 14 months since we opened up there?
Dude, over $1 million, like 1.2, 1.1, something like that, over $1 million.
What do you think maybe would be one of the most important things that allow that to happen in such a short period of time?
Dude, it's leveraging off established systems that are already in place. I could have been greedy, and you know me, I'm a smart dude. Like, I could figure this out on my own, but it would take me the time that you've, already put in to figure this out on your own, right? And, like, my goal is to go far, not to go, to a level of success, like, extremely quick. Like, if you want to go far, go together. If you want to go quick, go alone. And I want to go massively far. So leveraging off of Diamond Equity systems and what you already have built, dude, there's nothing else. There's no other reason why we've done this.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with this, and that's, mentorship, right, Austin? We have people out here. I don't do any coaching. Anyone listening, maybe if this is the first time, there's no sales pitch coming on any of these episodes. We don't do seminars. We don't do coaching programs. We don't do anything like that. The only form of mentorship that we really offer, in the form that's absolutely the best, is almost like a preordained by God type arrangement with somebody in your life the way me and Austin were kind of connected, which partially came through this podcast, I think originally, right, Austin?
Yeah, I was listening. This is my favorite podcast out of all the real estate specific ones. And then I met you at the Ring meeting out in Chicago, the investing networking group that we run here in Atlanta and Chicago and other markets. Yeah, I was just fans, basically. What?
Yeah, it was cool. It seemed like such a I forget the word that maybe I'm searching for, because I don't really believe in serendipity, but I believe in, like, you know, the universe making these circumstances happen, that we create these circumstances. And, you know, you added so much value and one thing led to another and the relationship built over a period of time. And Austin, I get a lot of people who listen to this show and they approach me at the networking events and they're like, yeah, I want to do deals. I want to do deals. And they're approaching it, I'm sure, with like more of a one-sided thing. They're looking for Austin Stack's position in the Atlanta market is what they have in mind, but they didn't see the value that Austin built up and a little bit of luck and a little bit of chance that you happen to like go and move all the way to Atlanta and start already doing business there well in advance of when we happen to circle back around and then create this thing. But the direction where I'm going is people are listening to the show right now and they're in different markets. They may not be in Atlanta. They may be in California, markets where we don't operate. Any of us do deals who are doing the show right now. But there's people who are in your life who maybe are placed there for a reason. And once you figure out how to add value to them and really be in a two-way kind of relationship, these people can act as a mentor the way I act as a mentor for everybody that's on my team. I act as a mentor to people who bring deals to the table in every one of these markets. There's people who call me up and they say, Dan, I got this deal and it's in, you know, such and such Hazel Crest, Illinois. What can we sell this for through your buyers list? What do you think you could pay for it if this is a deal that you would buy to fix and flip yourself? Like, how much should I offer the seller? And in those scenarios, I'm kind of acting as the mentor, although we don't put an official label on there and say, yeah, I'm mentoring you. But I'm guiding that person on the offer range. I'm guiding them on what to say during the negotiations. Sometimes I have one of my partners go out to the living room and make things easy. In a lot of cases, we buy the property. We're buying one right now through a real estate agent that was brought to us, you know, on a referral, just like kind of what I'm talking about. We're paying that agent out. We're paying the referral out. And we're just buying the deal and closing on the deal. We're going to keep it ourselves. And so there's people around in your market who can function as these mentors, and you don't necessarily have to go up and sit them down and say, can I take you out to lunch and pick your brain? Can you be my mentor? You can just go up to them and kind of ask the questions and figure out if it's going to be a good value exchange. Is this person functioning in the market in some capacity that you can bring them deals like we have? We do deals in all variety of neighborhoods, from $20,000 houses up to $1 million houses in all variety of markets around the country. So we're good in that function, but some people might be more of a buyer targeted in a specific neighborhood, and they're going to be interested in kind of doing things with you if you can bring them those kind of deals that are in those targeted neighborhoods. So keep your eye out for those mentors. Maybe they're in your life already. Keep an eye out for those like real rock stars in the market. If you have the opportunity to have somebody like that invest time, even on hopping on a phone call here and there, you know, taking your phone calls and looking at your deals, whatever the case is, make sure you don't squander that opportunity and treat it as the valuable thing that's been placed in your life by God that it actually is.
Absolutely, man. I want to go back real quick to something that you touched on, which is when people call you up with those deals and say, hey, look, you know, I ran into this person while I was driving for dollars, or I know my neighbor's house just needs a lot of work, and they asked me if I knew somebody, and I know you are an investor. You know, when people bring me those deals, I'll always look at them, but I take the people infinitely more seriously who don't ask me, hey, I have this property, how much can you pay me on it? I'm like, well, you haven't even given me the address yet. You gave me the city. And, you know, you and I, Dan, have cut, you know, what is that, 5-figure checks, like $20,000, $25,000 checks to people for just bringing a lead in. So when somebody asks me that, I'm like, look, you know, don't come at me like that. I will always take care of whoever's taking care of us, but, you know, we always will, but seek to add value. And if you are trying to align with somebody who you want value from and that you know is a good person who has a great reputation, what's the worst that can come out of it? Like, you know, they don't end up paying you on that deal. Okay, cool, you're in the same position now. But more often than not, if they're the person you think they are, then you're going to get 10 times the value than you think that you're going to get from that transaction, because you're also going to learn from them as much as you want to be involved. So, like, again, that's coming with your hand out, not seeking to add value. Well, how much can I get from it? Like, dude, do I even want to look at this? I don't even want to. It motivates me less to look at those deals when people start out like that. So, yeah, really, really key points that you were hitting there, though. Seek to add.
The deal with the $20K assignment we paid out, I think I'm thinking of the same one. I'm not going to mention the name or the address, but didn't that guy originally only want like $5,000 for bringing the deal or something like that?
Yeah, so he was saying anything over, I think it was like 10 or 12. He's like, anything over that, I just want my piece. Anything over that you guys can keep. And we end up, he underestimated what we could do. And so, there's a whole lot more bread on the table. And so, yeah, we ended up bumping him up. I think it was like, 10 grand, something like that.
We together, you and I, Austin, now we're buying rental properties. We love the Beltline in Atlanta. I personally buy in the cities where I operate around areas that are gentrifying that I think are going to take off. I did an episode on gentrification, which I'll also link to in the show notes here as well. That's our investment philosophy, is to find these neighborhoods that we believe are transitioning because the government, the private and, larger institutional investors are developing restaurants, property, larger buildings. So it's easy for us little guys here like me and Austin to buy these properties like we did there around the Beltline and hang on to them, not necessarily for cash flow. The properties do have the cash flow, but we paid like a retail number for that property that we just closed on last week. We put 20% down, just closed on it, with a conventional sale. And, that seller was able to basically get retail price from us. And we were willing to buy that property, which we would buy more at retail prices as long as they were located in very specific areas. And, any listeners in the Atlanta market, pay attention while Austin tells us where we are buying in that area.
Yeah, so specifically the deal that you're talking about is over in the West End. And we did pay market value for it, which is it's awesome. We typically like to get at least a little bit of a discount, but, for the right areas, right property, you better believe we will. We'll jump right out that window as little as possible. Yeah, so the neighborhoods that we really like. So I live in Dunwoody right now. I'm going to be moving to little 5 Points like Inman Park here in the next couple of months, but I really like properties around those areas. So Dunwoody, Georgia, if you're over in like Cobb County, Marietta, Smyrna, some parts of Mableton are awesome as well. Brookhaven, we've had a lot of success with as well. So I really like Brookhaven. And then, like I mentioned, the West End and the Beltline, the Capitol View in the Beltline over in that area is super awesome. And then, even if you have something in Cabbagetown or, over by Little 5 Points or Inman Park, we'll definitely, like, if the numbers make sense, purchase it. We haven't done much business over there, but we do have the funding to close on anything quick. So, we'll look at anything. It's typically for a flip, we're going off of like the 30% rule, but, for buy and holds in gentrifying areas, if it's a hot area, bring it up because our numbers vary widely depending on what kind of statistics the market currently has. But yeah, we're looking to buy, absolutely.
Before I ask the wrap-up questions here, are there any other final points you'd like to maybe have someone check out the Facebook videos that you put up on some of our renovations that were done recently, or any other items that we want to touch on before we close here, Austin?
Yeah, if you guys want to check out going along with everything we just mentioned, the Brookhaven renovation, a Marietta renovation, you can go to our Facebook page. You can just search Diamond Equity Investments Atlanta. And there's me walking through with the GoPro. I think Jake's in one of the videos for completed renovation projects. I think the most recent one was over in Dunwoody, like 5 minutes north of my house, and it's currently on the market for $550. So they can definitely go check that out. You can also connect with me on there. We run that page. So if you have any deals, you can message them to there. Or if you have any questions for me or anything like that, I'm available to reach on there too.
Cool. You want to share the book that you had mentioned that I had recommended early on? Is that something you want to give out to the listeners for?
Yeah. Thou Shalt Prosper by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. And it is probably a 30-hour audio. Would you say, Dan? Something like that?
I would say at least it's 30 hours. It's a few trips back and forth to Philadelphia and Chicago is when I listen to it multiple times.
Yeah, it's really, really well worth it, though. So your level of success will rarely, if ever, exceed your level of personal development. So if you want to attract wealth to you, and if you want to attract positive things in your life, you need to be an attractive person. It's the same philosophy when you think, how does one person earn $50 an hour and another person earns $500 an hour? You know, the $50,000 a year person versus the $500,000 a year person. They both have the same amount of time, and you can only work so hard. So the only difference is how much value within the time that they are putting in are they adding to other people. As Zig Ziglar says, you can get anything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So invest in yourself, read that book, read many other books. I know Dan has, I call it the hopper, like our hopper of books that are like waiting to be read because we're reading other ones right now. I know Dan probably has, as many, if not more than I do, like 20 plus books in the Audible hopper, in the, paperback book hopper, just waiting to be loaded in and read. So as we're talking about this, Dan, so I just joined Tony Robbins' Platinum Partner, which for those of you who know Anthony, Tony Robbins, Platinum Partnership is his premier partnership. So, you go to every single conference. You get personal, like one-on-ones with Tony himself and his wife, Sage. You get, platinum partner events that are only for platinums. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at 55 pounds of DVDs and audiobooks and like little training manuals that he sent me. So my hopper's really full right now, actually. But I'm pumped for it, right? I'm gonna get through all this. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Austin, like I don't put the official title of mentor, but as, my team has grown to 18, 20 plus people. I also do some kind of like, non-defined mentoring of other people outside the real estate industry, kind of like a big brother situation with the nonprofit that I'm involved in. And one of the books that's always a go-to that at the right point. So when I'm working with somebody early on and they haven't made any money yet, it's not really pertinent. But then once they've started to make some money and have that same hang up like you had on that relationship with money thing, that's when our guidance there and our conversations start to go around, okay, let's examine our relationship with money, because most people who haven't really made any or not a lot of money or start to make double the money or double again the money or maybe double again the money, there comes up some things about the way we think about money that are challenging to have peace of mind. And Thou Shalt Prosper is one of the go-to books. It's kind of like a prescription. Like you have anxiety, you're prescribed a Xanax. You have this relationship with money issue and you just made $100,000 in 27 days in the time you went under contract. So when you settled the deal, maybe you did 4 other deals during that same period of time. So the $100,000 is the most money you ever saw come in such a short period of time. That's when, it's the prescribed to sit down and listen to Thou Shalt Prosper. And the person who's humble enough to go ahead and do that and say, okay, let me make sure I do this all right and kind of grow as this money comes, I mean, in my opinion, is going to continue to have the social lubrication necessary to grow to the point of making $1 million a year, or double that. The numbers aren't necessarily as important as, the doubling of the income and the doubling of the growth in somebody's personal life. So great book recommendation. Glad you brought that up, Austin.
Absolutely. I mean, you get to a point where like you have enough money to kind of do whatever the heck it is you want to do, and you don't really need to keep on working. But the reason that you mentioned is like you're doing it for other people. You're wanting to positively impact the world and not just make a bunch of money, which is something made up by man, but actually improve the quality of those lives around you and the lives that you get to touch while you are here on this planet is why you keep on going after you do have enough wealth to, basically retire. So, really, really, really powerful. You glazed over that, but it was so important I wanted to point it out really quick.
Well said. The last little point I'm going to drive home when it comes to people who might have started making a bunch of money is to continue grinding and deceive yourself and convince yourself that you're still dead broke, even when there's $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 in the bank and you're looking at six figures in assignments coming in per year. If you make it to that level, because if you stop, if you take your foot off the gas, if you stop hustling the way you did when you built that up, that pipeline in real estate, at least, that pipeline will run dry at some point. If you make $100,000 and you go on vacation for 3 weeks, and then you follow that up with another 2 weeks on vacation and take a cruise for another week behind that, that pipeline will dry up and you will forget, the run up period of say 3, 4, 5, 7 months of getting those leads in, working those leads, massaging those offers, doing the follow-up calls, finally getting the contract after 5 months, and then selling the contract 5 months and 4 days later, and then going to settlement, 5 months and 14 days after your original lead came in and you sent the letter out, and then you have the money again. So it's tough. We sometimes can fall into a trap as real estate investors, fix and flip investors, maybe not so much the portfolio building guys who've been at it 20 years to get to the point of 10, 20,000 a month coming in, but definitely in a fix and flip in the wholesale arena, you have to stay hustling whether you have money in the bank or whether you don't have money in the bank. And I know from my own experience, it's 100 times easier when there's no money in the bank and there's no deals on the board to hustle and make the calls and sit there and patiently deal with the sellers and be enthusiastic about digging yourself out of the hole. Way, way easier time than when you have large amounts of money. And large amount of money could be $20,000 assignment. It could be a $6,000 assignment that could have that same impact depending on where you're starting from. So watch out for that, oh, I feel like I made it kind of feeling, and make sure to continue to hustle as hard as you did to get where you got to go.
Yeah, I call that the Midas touch.
Hell yeah.
Stay away from that.
Do you want to talk about why it's called the Midas touch, Austin? Do you remember?
Yeah, so King Midas, back in, I don't even know when, back when they were riding on horses and stuff, everything that he would touch, it turned to gold. He's like, look at this. Everything I touch, it turned to gold. I have unlimited wealth. I can buy whatever I want. I can do whatever I want to. Basically, thinking that nothing of his stunk. And so he goes through life and he goes up to his wife, I love you, hugs her, and she turns to gold. Like, oh, okay. That kind of sucks. I don't have a wife now. So he goes over and grabs an apple and tries to take a bite in the apple, but it is now turned to gold. And so all of the pleasure and excitement out of life was taken from his life. And therefore, he wasn't able to enjoy fully. It wasn't able to appreciate fully the gifts that he's been given because he thinks everything that he touches turns to gold. Something along those lines, but it relates to us in this industry thinking that, your presupposition in your mind that the fourth seller knows you, person selling a property, knows you as well as the third seller who you just spent a couple of months with. Like, well, I've already proven myself to this huge audience of people, so this one person should know who I am, and they shouldn't talk to me like this, and yeah, I can kind of just wing this really quick, and I don't have to go in there with my numbers really tight, and I don't have to go in there with my game face on, I don't have to show up 100% for this person, because I've done it a ton before. They should know. They don't know who I am, I got this confidence, I know what I'm doing, and if you're putting that out there, you can just imagine what you're going to get back out from that type of input. You're not going to get very great results. You're going to get arrogant results. It's happened a few times. But
basically, Midas touch, we think everything we touch turns to gold. And just like King Midas, some of that stuff we touched turned to gold, and the gold turned out to be shit. And then it didn't really work well. So watch that you don't fall into that delusion, just like King Midas, thinking you got that magic touch, because that's another form. You got the money in the bank. You think that you got it all figured out and you're a genius, and you're not necessarily humbly calling the partners and asking for advice. You're not necessarily, humbly reaching out to maybe someone who we talked about early in the episode as being that mentor position, that guidance, in the business. A lot of times I see wholesalers, myself included, see a couple assignments and think like, no, I'm not splitting this with anybody. I think I can just go run off and take this to the bank and do the whole deal. And I left partnerships that were very productive because I thought I could do it all on my own. And the reality is my other partner had bigger dreams, bigger goals, bigger networks of buyers, bigger things he was bringing to the table. And I walked away from very good partnerships because of that fallacy that I could just do all the work and do all the deals myself. But we've done, the $1 million plus in assignments here in Atlanta, Austin, you and and I couldn't do that on my own. I don't think you could do it on your own. Maybe you could, but we didn't decide to figure that out. If you go back, definitely God that put this together in a little bit of a tailwind, the Atlanta market, the real estate market, it's all adding up to very good things. If you went back to a year and a half, whenever it was that we started, is there anything you would tell yourself that would be like the crown jewel of wisdom to take that just 2 years ago when you were just getting started there in Atlanta that might have maybe made that transition even easier than it was? Or maybe you did exactly what it was that you would tell yourself.
Maybe. I like how you asked me from a few years ago, because normally your 18-year-old self, 26, so 2 years ago wasn't that far away from that. So you just got to cut that back. Yeah, man. Crown jewel of wisdom to my just beginning self is just to fail fast and fail forward, to pick yourself up immediately after you've had a quote-unquote failure or something that didn't work out the way that you wanted it to. Certainly those hurt, but get yourself up quickly. And like I mentioned, the most success I've ever had in my life is when I've partnered and aligned myself with people who are on a similar mission and already have just the resources and time put in that I haven't put in thus far. Because I'm not lazy. I will go out there and I will outwork you. I will outwork freaking anybody that you put me up against, and I will out-hustle them, I'll outthink them, whatever. But if I don't have the experience and I haven't been doing it, very long, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. And so leveraging off of people who are already where you want to be in life and partnering with them through continually trying to seek to add value and not get something from them. I wish I would have done that earlier. I would definitely be a millionaire by now if I had aligned with people who I now really want to be like. Yourself is definitely one of them, and Sam Zell's another one as well, famous real estate investor. So Tony Robbins always said proximity is power, and you doing everything alone will add up. It's addition. It's 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 plus 4 equals 8. 8 plus 8 equals 16. That's addition, and you can definitely gain a lot of momentum with that. But multiplication instead is what you aligning yourself and maybe even breaking bread with, definitely breaking bread with other people as well. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and then boom, 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 boom. Multiplication is way more powerful, and leverage is where multiplication. Middle class and below the poverty line people play the addition game. Wealthy people and investors play the multiplication game.
Nice, well said. Austin, do you want to share some contact information if anybody wants to kind of reach out, maybe connect with you, with the team? How can they do that?
So my contact information, I'll give you guys my cell phone. You already have the Facebook page, so you can go find me on there, Diamond Equity Investments /, Atlanta. Find us on there. But my cell is 678-842-3330. You can call that number or you can text it. Actually had quite a few people reach out last time. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm not on there very much, so probably don't add me on there if you can find me. But other than that, yeah, any questions y'all have, I'm open to it. I had a lot of people reach out from the last show, and come prepared to implement the advice that you're seeking from me and not just ask advice just for the sake of talking to somebody that you've heard on a podcast or for the sake of just general knowledge. Actually plan on implementing what you call me about, and I will help you till the ends of the earth. Whatever you need, I will be there for you. I promise you that. It's the biggest compliment you can pay.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing like getting results. Oh, yeah. I agree 100%.
But other than
cool.
that, it's all up.
All right, man. Also, if you have leads that you'd like worked in the Atlanta market, in any of the other markets that we also work in, Austin is the vice president in Atlanta, so he specializes in Atlanta. But if you're listening in one of the other markets, you can go to the podcasting site, www.reidiamonds.com, and you can actually submit, like, if you have a deal under contract, you can punch that information in there, and I'm personally going to take a look at that. And also my partner in whichever market that is will take a look at that. And then you can also, if you have, like, even if it's not under contract and you want someone like us to take a look and say, hey, we can offer X, Y, Z, or we think you could offer, to the seller this amount of money and it would be realistic, you can put that information in one of those forms there at the site as well. So, Austin, thanks again for giving us of your time. Time is the most valuable thing that any of us have here on this earth. It's limited, and we are all running out so quickly. So I appreciate you giving so generously of your time and wisdom today and coming on the show with us.
Absolutely. It's always fun talking with you, man. So perfect. I'm grateful as well.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Diamond Show. Are you interested in receiving a notification when I release the next episode? You can either sign up for email at www.reidiamonds.com or subscribe through one of the podcasting apps, including iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. If you do sign up for the email, make sure to confirm the subscription. Look out for the welcome email. There is a link in that email which contains my business plan, the step-by-step roadmap that I put together back in 2014, which I then subsequently used to build the business that we just got done talking about in the Atlanta market here in this episode. So you'll definitely want to check that out. That PDF is called Become a Wholesale Real Estate Master, 174 pages, pure content. I have nothing for sale there. I hope you take that business plan, go out, duplicate the business, put the business together, and ideally you bring a couple deals in my direction, like a buy, fix, and flip, or buy as rental properties, and maybe you and I can do some deals together. I also have a link for expert guests to apply to come on the show at that site. Again, www.reidiamonds.com. If you or somebody you know feel as though you would make a great guest for our audience here. If you are interested in selling a deal to me, please visit the site once again. And lastly, www.reidiamonds.com, and click the link at the top of the page. I am currently looking for deals in the Philadelphia tri-state area, Delaware, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, D.C. market, the Chicagoland region, the entire Atlanta region, and the Tampa Bay area and Miami areas in Florida. And lastly, do you know anybody else who might enjoy this episode? I would certainly appreciate the referral, and I'm sure they would enjoy the episode as well. And last but not least, I appreciate you, too, my loyal REI Diamond Show listener. Dan Breslin here. Catch you later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Diamonds Show with Dan Breslin. To receive email notifications of new weekly episodes, sign up at www.reidiamonds.com.